I'm Martha, 34 years old, work as a corporate compliance officer, married to Harold for 12 years, thought we had a solid partnership. Always prided myself on being an independent, self sufficient woman who doesn't need validation from anyone, especially not from men who think they're entitled to whatever they want. Wake up this morning to Harold sitting at the kitchen table with coffee. He's got that weird, serious look on his face again. Lately, he's been acting strange, distant, moody, probably going through some midlife crisis thing. Men and their fragile egos. Am I right, Martha? We need to talk. Oh, great. Here we go. Sit down across from him with my own coffee. What's on your mind, Harold? Trying to be supportive, even though I can already tell this is going to be some emotional nonsense. He takes a deep breath. I want a divorce. Nearly spit out my coffee. What the actual hell? Excuse me, where is this coming from? Harold's face is getting red now, his voice raising. Where is this coming from? Are you seriously asking me that question? He's practically yelling already. Martha, you haven't touched me since 2015. Not once. Do you understand that? I'm confused because what does that even mean? Harold, we live together. Of course I touch you. I hand you things. We? No. He slams his fist on the table. Coffee cups jump. I don't mean accidentally bumping into each other or passing the salt. He's really losing it now, face getting redder. Face getting redder. I mean, you haven't shown me any physical affection, any intimacy, any sign that you actually want to be married to me for 9 years, Martha. His voice is cracking with anger. 9 years of nothing. Honestly, don't understand why he's being so dramatic about this. Physical affection is nice and all, but we're adults. We have careers, responsibilities, a mortgage. Marriage is about partnership and mutual respect, not just whatever he's talking about. Harold, you're being ridiculous. We're not teenagers. Physical affection isn't the foundation of a mature relationship. Try to keep my voice calm and rational. We support each other's goals. We maintain our household together. We support each other's goals. He's on his feet now, pacing around the kitchen. When was the last time you asked about my goals? When was the last time you showed any interest in what I want or need? His hands are shaking. He's so angry. You talk about partnership, but you act like I'm just some roommate who pays half the bills. This is exactly the kind of emotional manipulation I can't stand. Men always make everything about them and their needs. I'm not responsible for managing your emotional state, Harold. That's something you need to work on yourself. Wrong thing to say, apparently, because now he's absolutely furious. Managing my emotional state. He's yelling so loud the neighbors can probably hear. I'm talking about basic human connection, Martha. I'm talking about feeling like my wife actually wants to be married to me. He starts counting on his fingers, voice getting more strained. 2015, Martha. The last time you kissed me was New Year's Eve, 2015. The last time you held my hand was sometime that spring when we were walking through the park with your sister. How does he even remember this stuff? The last time you initiated any kind of physical contact was... I can't even remember because it's been so long. You're keeping score now. That's healthy. Roll my eyes because this whole conversation is getting ridiculous. Grown men who need constant validation are exhausting. Harold stops pacing and stares at me. Keeping score? You think I'm keeping score? His voice drops to this weird, quiet anger that's somehow scarier than the yelling. Martha, I lie awake at night wondering what I did wrong. I replay conversations trying to figure out when you stopped loving me. I never stopped loving you. Don't be dramatic. Though honestly, love is kind of an outdated concept anyway. What matters is compatibility and shared values. Then why won't you touch me? He's back to yelling. Face bright red. Why do you flinch when I try to kiss you goodbye? Why do you move away when I sit too close to you on the couch? Why do you act like I'm some creepy stranger when all I want is to feel connected to my own wife? He's really spiraling now. Do you know what it's like to feel completely unwanted by the person who's supposed to love you most? Do you know what it does to someone's self-worth? This is exactly why I hate these conversations. Everything becomes about feelings and emotions instead of logic. Harold, you're catastrophizing. Just because I don't express affection the way you want doesn't mean the way I want. He interrupts me, voice cracking. I'm not asking for some elaborate romantic gesture. I'm asking for basic human touch. A hug that lasts longer than 2 seconds. A kiss that isn't just a peck on the cheek when your friends are watching. He sits back down, puts his head in his hands. I feel like I'm married to someone who tolerates my presence at best. Honestly, this whole thing is so typical. Men always expect women to be their personal emotional support system. I'm not responsible for your feelings of inadequacy, Harold. Maybe you should talk to a therapist about this need for constant validation. That was definitely wrong thing to say. His head snaps up and he's glaring at me with this look I've never seen before. Constant validation. Constant validation. He's on his feet again, hands clenched into fists. Martha, I haven't felt validated by you in almost a decade. I'm not asking for constant anything. I'm asking for something. Anything that shows you actually give a damn about me. Of course I care about you, though. I'm starting to think this marriage might have run its course. We've clearly grown in different directions. No, you don't. His voice is getting hoarse from all the yelling. You care about the idea of being married. You care about what divorce would do to your image. You care about splitting assets and explaining it to your family. But you don't care about me as a person. You haven't cared about me in years. He starts listing things, and I can tell he's been thinking about this for a while. When I got promoted last year, you said good and went back to reading your book. When I was sick with the flu, you bought medicine and left it on the counter. When my dad had his heart attack, you said you couldn't take time off work to come to the hospital. Okay, that last one wasn't fair. I had important deadlines that week. Harold's dad ended up being fine anyway. Every single thing that matters to me, you treat like an inconvenience. His voice is breaking now, switching between anger and something that sounds like despair. I've tried everything, Martha. I've tried talking to you. I've tried planning date nights. I've tried giving you space. I've tried being more helpful around the house. Nothing I do makes any difference because you've already decided I'm not worth your time or attention. This is getting exhausting. Why do men always make everything so complicated? Harold, you're reading way too much into normal relationship dynamics. People change, priorities shift. That's what happens in long-term partnerships. He stares at me like I just said something in a foreign language. Normal relationship dynamics. Martha, we don't have a relationship. We're strangers who share a mortgage. Now he's really losing control. Voice getting louder again. Do you know that you haven't said you love me without me saying it first in over 3 years? Do you know that you haven't asked me how my day was in months? Do you know that you actively avoid being alone with me? Some of these accusations are getting pretty specific. Maybe he really has been keeping track, which is honestly kind of creepy when you think about it. You're being manipulative, Harold, trying to make me feel guilty for not meeting your emotional demands. Cross my arms because I'm not going to let him turn this around on me. I'm not obligated to perform affection just to make you feel better about yourself. The look on his face changes to something I can't quite read. Perform affection. He repeats it like he's testing how the words sound. You think showing love to your spouse is performing. That's not what I said, though. Honestly, there is a lot of performative expectation in traditional marriage roles. That's exactly what you said, Martha. He's not yelling anymore, but somehow this quiet voice is worse. You think touching your husband is a performance? You think showing affection is something you do to make me feel better, not because you actually feel anything. He walks over to the window back to me. Jesus Christ, Martha. Do you even like me? Forget love. Do you even like me as a person? That's such a loaded question. Is such a juvenile concept. Anyway, I respect you, Harold. I think you're a good person with admirable qualities. He laughs, but it sounds nothing like normal laughter. Turns around to face me again. Admirable qualities, like I'm a job candidate you're evaluating. His face is getting red again. Voice rising. I don't want your respect, Martha. I want my wife to actually want to be around me. I want to feel like the person I married gives a kaha whether I come home at night or not. Now he's really going off, gesturing wildly. Do you know what it's like to walk into your own house and feel like you're intruding? To see your wife's face fall when you enter a room? To go to bed every night next to someone who acts like touching you would be a chore? He's working himself into another frenzy. I'm 37 years old, Martha. I'm supposed to be in the prime of my life. And instead, I feel like some pathetic loser begging for scraps of attention from his own wife. This victim mentality is exactly what I can't stand about men, always making everything about their egos and self image. Maybe the problem is that you derive too much of your self worth from external validation, Harold. That's not healthy. Wrong thing to say again. Apparently, external validation. He's screaming now. Face purple. You're my wife. You're supposed to be the person who knows me best, who cares about my well being, who wants to share your life with me. If wanting to feel loved by my spouse is external validation, then yes, I guess I'm guilty of that. He starts pacing again, running his hands through his hair. You know what the worst part is? It's not even about sex, though. That dried up years ago, too. It's about feeling human. It's about feeling like I matter to someone. You matter to lots of people, Harold. Your coworkers respect you. Your friends. I don't want to feel human to my coworkers. He cuts me off, voice cracking again. I want to feel human to you. I want my wife to touch me like she loves me, not like she's checking off a box on her to-do list. This is getting circular and unproductive. Clearly, Harold has some deep-seated issues he needs to work through. Probably stems from childhood stuff. Most emotional problems do. Harold, I think you should consider therapy. This level of emotional dependency isn't healthy for either of us. He stops pacing and just stares at me. Long silence. When he finally speaks, his voice is very quiet. Emotional dependency. You think wanting affection from your spouse is emotional dependency. His shoulders slump like all the anger just drained out of him. You really don't get it, do you? You genuinely think there's something wrong with me for wanting this. Honestly, yeah, I kind of do. Healthy relationships are based on mutual independence and respect, not this needy, clingy dynamic he's describing. I think you've created unrealistic expectations about what marriage should provide. Try to keep my voice gentle but firm. We're life partners, not teenagers in puppy love. Harold sits back down at the table, puts his head in his hands again. Life partners. His voice is muffled. That's what you think this is. When he looks up at me, his eyes look really tired. Martha, life partners would at least enjoy each other's company. Life partners would want to spend time together. Life partners would show some basic affection. His voice is getting strained again, but not from anger this time. What we have isn't a partnership. It's a business arrangement with shared expenses. That's kind of dramatic, but okay. There's nothing wrong with a practical approach to marriage, Harold. All those romantic ideals are just Hollywood nonsense. Anyway, he's staring at me like I'm speaking another language again. Romantic ideals, Martha. I'm talking about basic human connection. I'm talking about the foundation of intimate relationships. Now he's getting worked up again. Voice rising. Do you know that I fantasize about holding hands with my own wife? Do you know how up that is? I daydream about what it would feel like if you actually wanted to kiss me. He's really going off the deep end now. I see other couples being affectionate in public. And I feel this gut-wrenching jealousy because I can't remember what that feels like. You're catastrophizing again, Harold. This whole conversation has gone way off track. Plenty of couples show less physical affection as relationships mature. Show less. We show none. He's back to yelling, slamming his hand on the table again. 0, Martha. Absolutely nothing. He starts counting on his fingers again. Voice getting more frantic. No hand-holding, no cuddling, no casual touching, no lingering hugs, no real kisses, no sitting close together, no playing with each other's hair, no back rubs, no whoa. Okay, I get it. Cut him off because this list is getting excessive. You want more physical contact? We can work on that, though. Honestly, the thought of having to manufacture all that touching sounds exhausting. Why can't he just be satisfied with what we have? Harold laughs that bitter laugh again. Work on that like it's a project you need to add to your calendar. Jesus, Martha, listen to yourself. You're talking about touching your husband like it's a chore you need to schedule. His voice is rising again, getting angrier. I don't want you to work on it. I want you to work on it. I want you to miss me when I'm not here. I want you to be happy when I come home. He's really spiraling again. I want to feel like my wife actually desires my presence instead of just tolerating it. This whole desire concept is so juvenile. Mature adults don't base relationships on fleeting feelings. Harold, Desire fades in long-term relationships. What matters is commitment and compatibility. The look on his face is like, I just slapped him. Desire fades. He repeats it slowly. So you're admitting you don't desire me anymore. I'm saying that's normal and not something to base major life decisions on. Honestly, men are so dramatic about everything. Harold stands up again, starts pacing. Normal? You think it's normal to be completely physically repulsed by your spouse? I'm not repulsed. Don't be ridiculous. Though I do tend to avoid situations where he might try to initiate contact. It's just easier that way. Then, why do you flinch when I touch you? His voice is getting loud again. Why do you have an excuse every time I suggest we spend time together? Why do you act like my physical presence is an imposition? He's really fixated on this physical stuff. Probably watches too much romantic comedy garbage. Harold, you're conflating physical attraction with relationship success. That's a very immature way to evaluate marriage. Immature. Now he's really furious again. Wanting to feel wanted by your wife is immature. Wanting some sign that you actually enjoy being married to me is immature. He's gesturing wildly. Face red again. You know what's immature, Martha? Treating your spouse like a roommate you're stuck with. Acting like showing affection is beneath you. Pretending that basic human intimacy doesn't matter. This is exactly the kind of emotional manipulation I was talking about. Everything is always about his needs and feelings. I'm not going to be guilted into performing affection just to manage your insecurities, Harold. He stops pacing and stares at me. There it is again. Performing. His voice is quiet, but I can tell he's still angry. You really think love is a performance? Love is a choice and a commitment, which is much more reliable than feelings. Anyway, it's not about grand gestures or constant validation. Harold sits back down, puts his elbows on the table. Martha, when was the last time you chose to show me love? When was the last time you made any effort to connect with me? That's such a loaded question. I show love through practical support and maintaining our household. I show love through actions, Harold. I manage our finances. I maintain our home. I pay. Those are chores, Martha. He interrupts, voice getting strained again. Those are things roommates do. I'm talking about emotional connection, physical intimacy, actual affection. He's really obsessed with this emotional stuff. Probably needs therapy to work through whatever childhood issues are driving this. Not everyone expresses affection the same way, Harold. You need to accept that. Express affection? You don't express it at all. He's getting loud again. In what universe is completely avoiding physical contact with your spouse a way of expressing affection? Now he's leaning forward, speaking more intensely. Martha, you haven't willingly touched me in 9 years. Not once. How is that expressing anything except complete disinterest? He's really hung up on this timeline thing. You're being overly literal about the physical contact issue, though. I honestly can't remember the last time I felt like touching him. The whole thing just seems unnecessary. Overly literal? Harold's voice cracks. Martha, I'm talking about basic human connection. I'm talking about feeling loved and wanted by the person I married. He puts his head in his hands again. Do you know what it does to someone's soul to be completely untouched for years? To feel like your own wife is physically repulsed by you? This victim mentality is getting old. Harold, you're being overly dramatic. Lack of physical contact doesn't mean it means everything. He cuts me off. Voice breaking. It means you don't want me. It means you find me repulsive. It means you'd rather be anywhere else than close to me. He's on his feet again, pacing frantically. Do you know that I sleep as close to the edge of the bed as possible so I don't accidentally touch you and make you uncomfortable? Do you know that I time my showers so we're never in the bathroom at the same time? Okay, that's kind of weird. That he's been thinking about all this stuff so specifically. Maybe he really does need professional help. Harold, if you're having these kinds of intrusive thoughts, you should definitely consider therapy. He stops pacing and stares at me with this incredulous look. Intrusive thoughts? I'm having intrusive thoughts about wanting my wife to touch me. His voice is getting louder again. Martha, these aren't intrusive thoughts. This is me desperately trying to feel like I'm married to someone who actually wants to be married to me. He starts counting things again, voice getting more frantic. I plan my whole day around avoiding situations where you might have to show me affection. I don't suggest date nights because I know you'll make an excuse. I don't try to hold your hand because I know you'll pull away. This is getting really intense. Maybe I should suggest couples therapy, though. Honestly, I'm not sure there's much point if he's going to be this emotional about everything. Harold, maybe we should consider couples counseling. You're clearly struggling with some deep seated issues. He laughs that bitter laugh again. Deep seated issues. The only issue I have is that I married someone who treats me like an unwelcome house guest. His voice is cracking with anger and something that sounds like desperation. I don't need therapy to tell me that my wife should want to touch me sometimes. I don't need counseling to know that spouses should show each other affection. Now he's really going off, gesturing wildly. What I need is to feel like I matter to the person I've devoted my life to. What I need is to stop feeling like a complete failure as a human being because my own wife won't even hug me. This whole conversation is getting exhausting. Why can't he just accept that people express love differently? Harold, you're making this much more complicated than it needs to be. Complicated? He's screaming again. There's nothing complicated about wanting your wife to actually want you. There's nothing complicated about basic human affection. He slams both hands on the table, voice from yelling. The only thing that's complicated is trying to understand how someone can claim to love their spouse while acting completely disgusted by their presence. Honestly, this is exactly why I hate emotional conversations. Everything becomes about feelings and drama instead of practical solutions. Harold, you're catastrophizing the situation. We can work on improving physical intimacy if it's that important to you. He stares at me like I've completely missed the point, which I probably have because this whole thing seems blown out of proportion. Work on it. His voice is quiet, but I can tell he's still furious. Martha, do you hear yourself? You're talking about touching your husband like it's a home improvement project. I don't want you to work on wanting me. I want you to actually want me. I want to feel like my wife would choose to be with me if she had to make that choice again. His voice is getting strained. But you wouldn't, would you? If you could go back, you wouldn't choose me. That's such a hypothetical question. What's the point of thinking about alternative scenarios? I chose to marry you, Harold. I'm still here. That should be enough. The look on his face is like, I just confirmed his worst fears. That should be enough. He repeats it slowly. Staying married out of obligation should be enough. He sits back down, suddenly looking exhausted. Martha, do you know what it feels like to realize your wife is only with you out of obligation? Do you know what that does to someone? This whole victim complex is getting really old. Commitment and obligation aren't dirty words, Harold. They're the foundation of mature relationships. He puts his head in his hands. Jesus Christ, Martha. You really think that's all marriage should be? When he looks up, his eyes look different, less angry, more resigned. You know what? You're right. That's exactly what our marriage is. Obligation. His voice is getting quiet, almost defeated. And I can't do it anymore. I can't spend the rest of my life feeling like a burden to the person who's supposed to love me. Now he's being dramatic about divorce again. Harold, you're making a huge decision based on unrealistic expectations about relationships. He stands up slowly like he's tired. Unrealistic expectations. Shakes his head. Martha, expecting your wife to want to touch you isn't unrealistic. Expecting some sign of affection isn't unrealistic. His voice is getting stronger again, more resolved. What's unrealistic is expecting me to live the rest of my life feeling completely unwanted and unloved. This whole thing has gotten way out of hand. Harold, if physical affection is really this important to you, I'm willing to make more of an effort. Though honestly, the thought of having to fake all that touching sounds exhausting. He stares at me for a long moment. Make more of an effort. His voice sounds hollow. You'd be willing to schedule some hugs into your calendar. That's not what I said, though. I guess that is kind of what it would be. Harold shakes his head. Martha, I don't want you to make an effort. I don't want you to force yourself to touch me. I want you to want to touch me. And since that's never going to happen, I want a divorce. His voice is very calm now, which is somehow scarier than when he was yelling. I want to be with someone who actually desires my presence. Someone who shows affection because they feel it, not because they think they should. This is such an overreaction. Lots of couples go through phases where physical affection decreases. You're throwing away 12 years of marriage over this. I'm not throwing it away. His voice is still calm, but there's something final about it. You threw it away years ago when you decided I wasn't worth touching anymore. He starts walking toward the door. I've been living in a marriage where I'm completely unwanted for almost a decade. Martha, I'm not doing it anymore. Well, this is ridiculous. Harold, you're being overly dramatic. Physical affection isn't the most important thing in a relationship. He turns around at the doorway. You're right, it's not the most important thing. His voice sounds really tired, but feeling wanted by your spouse is. Feeling like they actually choose you is. Feeling like you matter to them is. And I don't feel any of those things with you. I haven't for years. He's really going through with this divorce thing. So what? You're just gonna leave? Give up on everything we've built together? Harold looks around the kitchen like he's seeing it for the first time. What have we built, Martha? What do we actually have together besides shared expenses and a mortgage? We have a partnership, a life together, shared goals. We don't have shared goals, he interrupts. We have parallel lives that happen to intersect at bill-paying time. His voice is getting more emotional again. I wanted a marriage, Martha. I wanted love and intimacy and connection. I wanted to build something real with someone who actually wanted me. What I got was a roommate who tolerates my presence and acts like my desire for affection is a character flaw. This whole thing is so typical of men, always making everything about their emotional needs. Harold, you're idealizing marriage. Real relationships require compromise and maturity. Compromise? His voice cracks. Martha, I've been compromising for 9 years now. I've compromised away every need I have until there's nothing left. I've compromised away my need for affection, my need for intimacy, my need to feel wanted. I've compromised away my entire sense of self-worth. He's getting worked up again. And what have you compromised? What have you given up? Nothing. You've gotten exactly the marriage you wanted. A practical arrangement with no emotional demands. This is getting circular again. Clearly, Harold has made up his mind and nothing I say is going to change it. Fine, if that's what you want. I'm not going to beg you to stay. The look on his face is like, that's exactly what he expected me to say. Of course, you won't beg me to stay. That would require you to actually want me here. He turns to leave again, then stops. You know what the really sad part is, Martha? I would have stayed forever if you had just touched me once. Just once. Like you actually wanted to. One real hug, one genuine kiss, one moment where you acted like you were happy to see me. His voice is breaking. That's all it would have taken. 9 years of feeling worthless, and all I needed was one sign that you gave a damn. This is getting too emotional. Clearly, Harold needs time to process whatever midlife crisis he's going through. Maybe after he cools off, he'll realize how good we have it together. Harold, I think you should take some time to really think about what you're giving up here. He looks at me with this expression I can't quite read. What am I giving up? A marriage where I'm completely unwanted? A wife who treats touching me like a chore? Martha, I'm not giving anything up. I'm finally stopping the cycle of begging for scraps of affection from someone who clearly doesn't want to give them. He walks back into the kitchen, sits down at the table one more time. Do you want to know what finally made me realize I had to leave? Honestly, not really, but he's probably going to tell me anyway. Last month, when we were at David and Sarah's anniversary party, I watched them dancing. Sarah kept touching his face, playing with his hair, just enjoying being close to him. His voice is getting emotional again. And I realized I couldn't even remember what that felt like. I couldn't remember what it was like to have someone want to be close to me. I spent the whole drive home trying to think of one time, just one time, when you've touched me like that, like you actually wanted to. His voice cracks. I couldn't think of a single moment, Martha. Not one. This comparison thing is so unhealthy. Every couple is different. Harold, comparing our relationship to other people's is pointless. Everyone expresses affection differently. No, they don't. His voice is getting loud again. Some people express it more or less, but everyone expresses it somehow. You don't express it at all. He's getting really worked up again. Martha, You act like I'm asking for something unreasonable, but what I'm asking for is the absolute bare minimum of human connection. I'm asking to feel like my wife doesn't find my presence repulsive. That's it. That's the bar. His voice is cracking with frustration, and even that is too much for you. Even basic human warmth is something you can't give me. This whole conversation has been going in circles for hours. Clearly, Harold has some deep issues he needs to work through. Maybe divorce isn't the worst idea if he's going to be this needy and emotional all the time. Harold, if you've made your decision, then I'm not going to try to change your mind. The look on his face is like, I just confirmed everything he's been saying. Of course you won't, because that would require you to actually care about keeping me. He stands up again, walks toward the door. You know what, Martha? Thank you. Thank you for what? Thank you for making this easy. Thank you for confirming that you really don't care if I leave. His voice is bitter. Most people would at least pretend to fight for their marriage, but you can't even be bothered to pretend. Honestly, what's the point of fighting for something if it's clearly not working? Better to end things amicably than drag it out. I'm being practical, Harold. If you're unhappy, then maybe this is for the best. He stops in the doorway again. Practical, right? Shakes his head. God, Martha, do you hear yourself? Your husband just told you he wants a divorce, and you're being practical about it. Any normal person would be upset, would try to work things out, would show some emotion about ending their marriage. His voice is getting strained again. But not you. You're being practical. Like, I'm just another item on your to-do list that you can finally check off. This emotional manipulation is exactly what I can't stand. Harold, getting emotional isn't going to solve anything. If we're not compatible anymore, then compatible. He's yelling again. We were never incompatible, Martha. You just stopped trying. You just decided I wasn't worth the effort. He's really losing it now. Voice breaking. We could be compatible if you gave a damn. We could have a good marriage if you actually participated in it. But you checked out years ago, and I've been talking to myself ever since. This victim complex is getting really exhausting. Harold, you're rewriting history. Our marriage has always been a partnership of equals. He laughs that bitter laugh again. Partnership of equals. Martha, partners participate equally. Partners care about each other's needs. What we have is me begging for basic human connection while you act like that's an unreasonable demand. His voice is getting horseiero from all the yelling. That's not a partnership. That's me being emotionally neglected while you pat yourself on the back for being practical. Honestly, this whole thing has been exhausting. If Harold wants to throw away 12 years of marriage over some emotional neediness, that's his choice. I'm not going to beg him to stay. Well, Harold, it sounds like you've made your decision. I guess we should talk to lawyers. He stares at me for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his voice is very quiet. That's it? That's all you have to say? What else is there to say? If he's determined to be miserable about our perfectly functional marriage, there's nothing I can do about that. What do you want me to say, Harold? His shoulders slump. I wanted you to say you'd miss me. I wanted you to say you'd try harder. I wanted you to show some emotion about losing me. But you're not going to, are you? Because losing me doesn't actually matter to you. His voice sounds defeated. You're relieved. You're relieved that you won't have to deal with my emotional needs anymore. Honestly, he's not entirely wrong about that. It would be nice to not have to navigate all these emotional landmines all the time. Harold, I think this might be what's best for both of us. The look on his face is like I just stabbed him. What's best for both of us? He repeats it slowly. Right, of course. He turns to leave one final time. You know what, Martha? I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope you find someone who wants the same emotionless, practical arrangement that you do. And I hope they never expect you to actually love them, because I don't think you're capable of it. That's unnecessarily cruel, but whatever. Men always get nasty when their egos are bruised. Harold, there's no need to be vindictive about this. He stops in the doorway. Vindictive? I'm not being vindictive, Martha. I'm being honest. For 9 years, I've been telling myself that deep down, you must love me. You just express it differently. His voice is very quiet now. But you don't, do you? You don't actually love me. You probably never did. That's such a dramatic thing to say. Of course, I love him in my own way. Love just means different things to different people. Harold, you're being overly emotional about this. Love isn't just about physical affection and grand gestures. He nods slowly. You're right. It's not. But it's also not about nothing, Martha. And that's what you've given me for 9 years. Nothing. He walks away and I hear the front door close. Finally, that whole conversation was exhausting. Honestly, maybe this divorce thing is for the best. Harold clearly has some serious emotional issues he needs to work through, and I shouldn't have to manage his neediness and insecurity. It's 2024, not 1950. Women aren't responsible for being their husband's emotional support system. We have our own lives and careers and goals. If Harold can't handle being married to an independent, self sufficient woman, then he should find someone who wants to play that traditional wife role. Someone who's willing to fake affection and constantly validate his ego. That's just not who I am. I'm a strong, successful woman who doesn't need to perform femininity to make men comfortable. And I'm certainly not going to pretend to feel things I don't feel just to manage Harold's emotional state. The whole thing is honestly kind of pathetic. A grown man having a breakdown because his wife doesn't touch him enough. What is this? Middle school. Mature adults build relationships on mutual respect and shared values, not on physical attraction and emotional dependency. Harold clearly never learned how to have an adult relationship. With maybe after he spends some time alone, he'll realize what he's giving up. A stable, practical partnership with a successful, intelligent woman. But probably not. Men his age usually just end up with some younger woman who's willing to stroke their ego. Whatever. I'll be fine either way. I have my career, my friends, my own life. I don't need Harold or anyone else to feel complete. If anything, this whole experience has just confirmed what I've always known. Romantic love is a myth designed to keep women dependent on men. Real relationships are about practical compatibility and mutual benefit. Harold can go chase his fantasy of being wanted and desired all he wants. I'll be here living in the real world where mature adults don't base major life decisions on feelings. The fact that he's willing to throw away 12 years over something as trivial as physical affection just shows how immature and selfish he really is. Good riddance. Honestly, I'm sure the lawyers will sort everything out fairly. We don't have kids, so it should be pretty straightforward. Split the assets, sell the house, move on. Harold will probably end up regretting this decision once he realizes how good he had it. But that's not my problem anymore. I tried to build a mature, practical partnership, and he wanted some fairy tale romance instead. His loss. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.